if people don't like the word risk, it's actually about taking a leap of faith. And I took a massive leap of faith into believing in myself and just trusting that if I put the work in, it will turn out for good and it will turn out for better. Because risk has a negative connotation that, you know, something bad is going to happen if you do this. Faith, on the other hand, is far more optimistic.
I like that.
Yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode from CareersTalks with Tamer. Today I have Onyinye. Onyinye started her entrepreneurship journey early on since she was 9.
No, 12.
12,
My mum was 8. She beat me to it.
Yes. I saw that TED Talk actually on your journey. And then you've done school at King's College and you've done a master's there as well, focused on education. And you started your journey in tutoring early on. You've also experimented a bit with the corporate world with some internships in law firms, etc. So we'll touch a bit on that and how did you feel. But also you started your own consulting and business services firm where you basically work with big firms like the BBC, Google and the Financial Times to make them more neuro-inclusive.
Yes.
So we'll touch also on that and how has your journey been and the difference between the feeling of starting something that's maybe a bit you can really relate to, which is your consulting services firm and the tutoring as well. So I'm very happy to have you today. How are you, first of all?
I'm good, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
I'm especially excited because I'm quite passionate about careers. The tutoring business, when you work in education, anyone who's listening to this, you will know that you are not just a tutor. You become a careers advisor and a parent advisor and a pseudo lawyer and all sorts. So, from a personal perspective, that this means a lot to me.
Also,
so thanks for inviting me.
No, of course. I also started tutoring recently, so I can relate to what you're saying. Would love to hear a bit more about your upbringing. So, how did your childhood and the community around you contribute to who Onyinye is today, basically?
So I'm one of 4. I'm the eldest and the only female child. So I am the matriarch in the household. That's what my brothers would say anyway. But that did shape a lot of who I am today because I'm from a culture where women don't typically have a leadership role. They're meant to be quiet, they're meant to be in the background, but my position in terms of where I sit with my siblings, I'm the firstborn child, so being in the background isn't an option for me. And also I had 2 very liberal Nigerian parents, so they don't follow that traditional school of thought that, you know, because I am the female child, I should be quiet. They always empowered me, and I was naturally a very good speaker. I think looking back on it now, I was a good speaker, a good orator because I couldn't read, write and spell properly because I'm dyslexic. So I compensated for that from learning how to articulate myself very well orally. 2 loving parents, a special big thank you to my mom. She's probably fed up of hearing her name brought up in every media podcast, but I really would not be in this position without her, especially my dad was supportive in a way that fathers are, but I think because my mother is also dyslexic, she really resonated with me and understood the challenges that we both face. And she's an entrepreneur herself, always has been. Like I said, she started at the age of 12, so I was inspired by her. And
she started selling that chocolate drink in Nigeria. So I'm sure when you heard these stories when you were young, that was probably the thing that gave you that or probably inspired you to become an entrepreneur. Is that right? Or what was that starting point for you of, no, I want something different, because being an entrepreneur, you have to think a bit differently or you're taking some kind of risk, especially when you start at 12.
Yeah.
Because children would be like, oh, I want to go play. So how did you say, okay, at the age of 12, I want to actually start this tutoring business? Was it inspired by your mom's story?
Yeah. I've thought very deeply about this question, and to be completely honest, I would never say that I was inspired to become an entrepreneur. I actually just fell into it. And sometimes that is just the case, because I do think that everyone feels that they have to be inspired to do something or to make change or to make a difference or to take a risk. That really wasn't my story. I started tutoring because I'm from a working class background. I won a scholarship to a fantastic school, but it was still very expensive. I had a long summer holiday and I needed some extra cash. On top of needing some extra cash that I could use as pocket money because I didn't want to ask my parents, I wanted to create a positive impact in the area of which I'm from. I'm from Edmonton. It is statistically got a very high crime rate, low literacy rate. It's a low aspiration area, which thankfully funding is now being put into certain initiatives, but we have a long way to go to level the playing field. And I went to a school that from a very young age taught us the importance of making sure that we give others opportunity with the power, or with, I mean, power is probably the wrong word, but with the education and the exposure. Exposure is a better word, with the exposure that we have. So that's what kick-started the business. If anything inspired me at all, it wasn't even the fact that my mum started her entrepreneurship journey young. I would say what inspired me was the mission statement of the school that I went to. Wow. It's a school where most young people, their parents aren't paying full fees. A lot of young people, not everyone, but a lot of young people had a similar story to myself. And the school gave us a hand up. So I, at 12 years old, audaciously thought that I could replicate that in North London. And I think I have to a certain degree. So that was the inspiration, if I was to say there is one.
Yes, no, that's a very interesting story, and touch on what you said about your mom. I think it's never too much when it comes to thanking our moms. So, but yeah, that's very interesting, because you felt that sense of, or like the kind of obligation that I want to help at a very young age, and that doesn't come to any child. So that's very interesting, and a lot of respect for that. Then I think you started, trying a bit of, I think your first internship was in a law firm.
Yes.
So, because you can always contribute, even if you're professionally successful within a corporate environment. Yeah. So tell me a bit more of that thought of 9 to 5 doesn't belong to me, because you've never did a 9 to 5
I
job.
never actually started
you got an offer, if I'm not mistaken. So can you tell me a bit more about that dynamic of like, or not just a story, or like, how did you decide of entrepreneurship is the path? Yeah. And I know like I will succeed, because there's at least from my side, like doing this, there's some kind of self-doubt when you build that side thing, and there's some risk. So tell me a bit more about that internal journey as well, like your thought process.
The first thing I will say is I was not naturally a risk taker. Okay. I'm only learning to take risk now at 26. Nice. Everything is very calculated, very methodical, very logical. I like there to be a reason. Everything is planned, which is why initially law wasn't even my initial career path. I thought I was going to be a doctor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I was very passionate about becoming a doctor. All my family thought I was going to be a doctor. And the reason for it is because I wanted to help people. Now that I look back on it, it wasn't so much that I was wanting to make great change in the world of medicine. I just knew that when I want help, as a child, we go to the doctor helps you. So I wanted to replicate that. And that's really important, because throughout my career journey, the question has always been, is this helping another individual? It's really important to me. The truth is, chemistry decided that I wasn't going to be a doctor. I wasn't good at chemistry. But like I said, I was great at talking. I hope I still am. I hope people enjoy the podcast. And I was really good at English literature and philosophy at school, really good at theology, really good at those kind of deep critical thinking, essay writing subjects. And with the talking, or the ability to speak well, the teachers thought, you'll be a brilliant barrister. That's where you see all the work experience in my teens being in law. When I started at King's College London, the plan was to finish the degree in religion, politics and society and go to law school and become a barrister. But being fully transparent, I had a really unpleasant mini pupillage experience. So a mini pupillage, for those who are listening and don't know, it's like the formal name of a work experience that you encounter or you go on if you want to go to the bar, if you want to become a barrister. I I realized that perhaps that world at the time, and this was 10 years ago now, and there's been a lot of change in 10 years, that at the time, I would not consider it a psychologically safe space for Black people. And then that's just my honest opinion. That was my experience of it. And then lastly, the cost. To become a barrister is very expensive, and no one told me that. I would either need to have lots of scholarships or take out loans. My parents were not in a financial position to support me in a way that is absolutely necessary to go to the bar. So when I considered all those things, I realized that the bar wasn't going to happen. And I was deeply sad about it. My mentors, if they listen to this, they're going to laugh, but I remember meeting one of them who was working in professional services at the time. He was brilliantly helpful. And I said to him, I'm having a early life crisis, a bit like a midlife crisis. I don't know what I'm going to do with my future. It really impacted me. What
age was that, if you don't mind?
I was 20.
20.
19, 20, yeah.
Midlife crisis at 20.
Yeah, literally. That's exactly his reaction. He laughed a lot. He was like, because I was always, my school friends, if they listen to this, I was always the try hard. I still am. And I've owned it now. Like, I've owned that I like to try hard. I like working hard as part of my personal brand. If you don't like it, then that's fine. But that's just who I am. But like I said, everything was very methodical. I had my life planned out at 19. And this plan wasn't working. Meanwhile, I was always running the tutoring business on the side, and I still did not see myself as an entrepreneur at that point.
Wow. Okay.
Right? Decided I was going to go down the professional services route. So working in the big consulting firms. If I'm being completely honest, I wasn't bothered about the service line. So I didn't care if it was, like
management or financial consulting or business, whatever.
Just consulting. I was quite lost. Or maybe I wouldn't say the word lost, but it was a good opportunity to explore. And because I am so risk averse, I settled on risk advisory.
Okay, wow.
Right? And I applied, because again, don't forget I'm a try-hard. I applied to 40 graduate schemes.
Wow.
And I got rejected by 39.
Wow, okay.
Now, when you are the first ever student of the year at your university, you were, a brilliant student in secondary school at sixth form, you'd won loads of awards. This bruises your ego big time. And I'm glad it happened to me, because it made me come right back down to earth. It showed me that, you can be a stellar student, win lots of awards, have everything going for you, have quote unquote the perfect CV, and people will still tell you no. And that's okay. And I had really low self-esteem for a long time, but I did get an offer from a Big Four firm. And then, I had a couple of things happened. Some admin error took place. I now know that it was clearly God just like lining up things, meant that I couldn't start straight after my degree, my undergraduate degree. So I applied for my postgraduate degree when applications had closed. I still had not really seen myself as an entrepreneur.
Wow, okay.
I only started to see myself as an entrepreneur in my final year of university. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why. One, because I come from a working class background, we don't call it entrepreneurship in that background. We just call it, you're a hustler.
Hustling, yes. I can relate.
That's it, right? The second thing is that I did not see many Black female entrepreneurs. I saw Black male entrepreneurs, but I didn't see them in enough of a number. And the third is that you're not taught that being an entrepreneur is a career. So can you see at this point, even though I had a very successful career, might I add, for a very long time, I didn't see myself. I just used to say I'm a hustler, right? And my career starts when I'm 20, 21 or 22 in a corporate firm, and I wear, a suit and stuff, and I go to the office. And when you come from a working class background where you've been educated to a certain level, my parents, including my mother, even though she is an entrepreneur herself, for a long period of time pushed that your career starts when you go to the office.
When you start the job,
right? So I think there's something to say about entrepreneurship education and careers education for young people to kind of bust some of those myths. Let's now fast forward. So I end up doing the postgraduate degree, and really growing the business, and then COVID hits.
Oh, okay.
Once COVID hit, I knew that, okay, I'm actually an entrepreneur. And the business really took off because we had started online tutoring well before it was a thing. Like, we were using Skype to tell you, right, how long.
Pre-Zoom days.
Yeah, pre-Zoom days. So I feel like I was ahead of the curve. And anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, you have to have the ability to think forward and think fast. That is so important. So that business had grown, Enriched Learning took off. The university also saw me as an entrepreneur because the head of the Entrepreneurship Institute, so not like the academic department, King's has an institute to teach you how to be an entrepreneur. And I have to say that they're one of the early adopters. Oxford have something similar as well, but very few universities in the UK at the time had this setup. They heard about my tutoring business and they embraced me with open arms. They taught me lots of stuff about branding, the basic legalities. I had a brilliant mentor for a period of time who was a King's alumni. Devika, she was brilliant. She asked me to meet her in central London and said, right, you need to set up a company on Company's House. I was like 19 years old. I was like, what's that? At the time, it was £12. Like, that's really how the business journey properly started. So again, it took people seeing me, people seeing my ability to do business and do business well, and encourage me to like take it more than just a side hustle. Meanwhile, I still thought I was going to go back to this Big Four firm afterwards. Still. Wow. Finished my postgraduate degree, had a really tragic death. My uncle passed away in the pandemic. But like, it was really bad. I mean, he was in the hospital for 6 months with COVID. I was like one of his main carers. So my mental health tanked. Like, it was so bad. And I was in this waiting period because I was meant to start as a graduate at this organization in the February. And again, call it fate, but the day I was meant to start work, my uncle died. He died at 9 a.m. That's when I was meant to actually log on to the laptop that had been brought to my house. And I hung it up and I said, I can't do it. I mean, I wasn't mentally in the right frame of mind to start work anyway. So that was besides itself. Prior to that happening, I was having loads of meetings with people who were quite senior at this organization who said, hang on, your skill set is kind of way above graduate scheme, but we don't have a role for someone who's done what you've done. And by the way, we're not quite sure whether you can manage a graduate scheme and this business. Because at this point, Enriched Learning was a business. It's no longer a side hustle. I do like talking about money. I think it's important because I like to see young, particularly Black women feeling more free to talk about money. The business had turned over more than double what my graduate salary was going to be. Wow. Right? So I'm now stuck in this, thank you, which I'm now stuck in this conundrum in between a rock and a hard place. My whole life I'd been told career is in the office. I'd had a fantastic job offer from a very big organization, but I also had this business that was financially doing quite well for a 22-year-old. And so I made the call and said, I can't. And actually the catalyst for the call for me to say, I can't do this corporate job wasn't even about the fact that I didn't fit the graduate role scheme or, that the business was making good money at the time. And it still is. I'm very grateful that it's lasted this long. The actual catalyst was my uncle had passed away. And I think the point of this is sometimes life throws you lemons for you to be able to make your own lemonade. And at the time, my parents, particularly my dad, was thinking, what on earth are you doing? I remember he sat me down and he said, you do realize you're saying no to security, which again, there's this misconception that in business or in entrepreneurship, you won't be secure. That is not always the case. Far from it, actually. It gives you the opportunity to explore and find yourself. And dare I say, here's me who takes a lot more risk now. Why are we talking to early 20-something-year-olds about security? Why aren't we telling them to go and find themselves?
True.
Because you don't want to be trying to find yourself 27, 28, 29.
Yeah. That's when security
really matters,
as a
right?
factor, exactly.
So I decided, I was going to go on that journey, and that organization have been still and were so supportive of my decision. They did not make me feel bad for not coming. I mean, they'd invested a lot in me as well. I did go through quite a lot of the early training before starting. But they actually felt that it was the right thing to do. I remember having a call with a partner who said, I just don't think this is the right fit. And if a partner at an organization like that is telling you, look into entrepreneurship, you're already doing it, then they're
probably genuinely, because for their benefit is for you to come to the firm and work for them, but then they're being very transparent and genuine. So
hugely transparent. And lastly, I had a book deal. This is the other thing.
Oh, because you wrote your own book as well.
Right. So
Dyslexia and Me, correct?
Yes, Dyslexia and Me. I had a book deal. How I wrote that book, only God knows, and how it turned out so
well. We'll touch a bit on that as well.
Literally. Because we will talk about that a bit later. And that is a whole other career, and there's lots I want to make people aware of with the writer's journey or the author's journey. But I had a book deal. So again, it did not make any logical sense.
Why would I?
How would I write the book, continue writing the business, and do the graduate scheme?
100%.
So that's where we are. That's how I ended up here.
You took the right decision. So good on you that, you just pushed through it and you took the risk. Because a lot of people will just go with the other decision of, this business, I'm not sure. So
and if
well done on that as well. Like taking the risk.
Thank you.
It's a good thing and a good tip for people who are in between to try, and especially at that age, just try and explore as much as you can. Because as we said, if you grow older, that risk appetite will change, and probably have to consider factors like security. Their weight becomes heavier.
Yeah. But what I wanted to say is, if people don't like the word risk, it's actually about taking a leap of faith. And I took a massive leap of faith into believing in myself. And just trusting that if I put the work in, it will turn out for good and it will turn out for better. And I think it's so important because risk has a negative connotation that, something bad is going to happen if you do this. Faith, on the other hand, is far more optimistic.
I like that. Yeah. Rephrasing is important for your brain as well. Because when you think of it, I'm either taking a leap of faith or I'm taking a risk, you will perceive it differently. So
exactly.
That's a good point. The first business you started is the tutoring business, which is enriched learning, where you had people coming into your house and students coming into your house and you tutored them basically. And the business is still alive till today. There's a lot that has been done in the education industry, especially after COVID. So how did you manage to keep the business alive with all of this competition and different services that are being offered today?
I think the first thing, regardless of what sector you are in, you have to make sure you know the purpose of your business throughout. Because things will change, the world is changing, you'll have to respond to the change in the economy, all of that is super important. But if you know the purpose of why you are doing what you will do, and with taking that leap of faith, you will last the test of time. If I take examples from, let's take Nike as an example. They're not doing so great on numbers at the moment. Brands like New Balance, and there's a favorite, or there's a new favorite running brand that have taken over.
Hoka.
That's it.
Yeah.
But I tell you why Nike will be fine, because they know their purpose. It's a shaky period, and believe me, Enriched Learning has had many a shaky period, but they have always stuck to the purpose of doing what they're doing. And if you look at a range of different sports, from football to golf to tennis, they are still the chosen brand for performance. It's not about being cool. And I think this is important, especially because we live in an age where being cool has almost become, or running a business that is cool and on trend has almost become a little bit more important than running a business that is aligned with its purpose and sticks to it. So what is Enriched Learning's purpose? the first and most and foremost thing was, and it still is, and that's why it's lasted the test of time, has always been to be an affordable education provider. And affordable looks like so many different things. When I was a teenager, affordable meant that people were coming to my house on the weekend, and I had roped in my brothers and other tutors to tutor from my parents' living room. Thank you, Mum and Dad, for allowing me to use your living room for so many years. Then the pandemic hit, and affordability meant being able to use tech and use tech efficiently, and in a cost-efficient way, which is super, super important. And now, what does it look like? Affordability looks like being able to provide the education service at scale and bringing in different partners, and also branching out slightly from education, but looking at mentoring, looking at other important career skills, whether it be a debating club or other activities to enrich, no pun intended, to enrich the lives of young people. So that's the first thing, knowing your purpose. The second thing in terms of longevity is, who are you trying to serve? I, from the very beginning, have always made it very clear that I'm not trying to serve high net worth individuals and their children. Although, funnily enough, I've actually put up quite a few high net worth individuals who have fallen in love with the purpose of affordability, but for them, the opportunity for their children to mix with children from other backgrounds. Yeah. Right? But knowing who you're trying to serve. So I've always been aiming my services for the tutoring business, because my other business has a different service. Yeah, right. But for the tutoring business, I've always been trying to serve the working class, the lower middle class, and the middle class. The upper middle class and kind of like the aristocracy, if they ever come across us, they are more than welcome. But the services are not tailored for them. And then the third thing that is kind of linked to who is being quite specific about your demographic. I worked for a period of time with an amazing marketeer. She's now basically runs the marketing for topicals. Her name is Abiola.
Nice.
And she really taught me the importance of knowing your demographic very early on and being kind of unashamed about who your demographic is. I spotted that the tutoring industry is predominantly used by ethnic minority people in the UK.
Wow. Okay.
Right? Those are the parents, because it's linked to aspiration. In order to climb the ladder in the UK, you need to have good grades, right? So you're looking for, a lot of Asian communities use tutoring, a lot of Black communities use tutoring, but the service providers almost never look like them. And so there's a gap.
You don't know who you're offering your service to.
Thank you. And there's also a lack of cultural competence. Now, don't get me wrong. There are huge numbers of, particularly in the Asian community, of providers who are serving their communities. But I tell you, another gap is people of a different social class serving a social class. So we often find kind of people from grassroots working class communities who have set up this tutoring hub in their local community serving working class people. I can no longer say, I'm from a working class background, but I can no longer say that I am right now working class. It would be an insult to working class people, right? So I have the relatability because I know what you're experiencing. I experienced it. But I was able to climb out of that, and Enriched Learning's purpose is one of aspiration. Yeah. I want people to know that should they have the desire to leave that working class and go to the next one, not everybody wants to do that. And we have to respect everyone's decision. But should they want that either for themselves or for their children, you're talking to a founder who has done that journey and wants to empower your child to do the same. So it's very, very clear. I remember when I was working with Abiola, she was very big, and she taught me the importance of data and why we must follow what the data shows us with regards to growing your business. And she ran 2 ads on Facebook. One ad was Enriched Learning with photographs of white blonde children. And one ad was with photographs of Black children. Bearing in mind everything I've just said to you, obviously the second photo is who I'm trying to reach. And although, because the tech behind advertising is racist and needs a lot of work, although the ad with the white faces had a far wider reach and faster reach, the ad with the faces of the black children used in the imagery got me the people that I wanted to serve as my customer. That was a big eye-opener and a big lesson for me to learn. So why we've lasted this long is I've just stayed true to who I'm trying to serve. I'm not trying to change who I'm trying to serve. When it's a difficult period, like there are aspects of the business right now which are quite difficult. We've had the privilege of being able to now serve local authorities and work at scale. But my B2C, so my direct-to-consumer angle of the business, people are going through a tough time. They don't have extra money to spend on tutoring. But I'm still staying true to this is who I'm trying to serve.
Affordability, yeah. Because as soon as you try to divert away, you can still, but you need to know, okay, what's the new mission? What's its purpose? And you relate to it. And you relate to this new customer base. Otherwise, you'll just be lost, basically. But in your case, you knew who you're offering to because you were there. And they can relate to you. They can relate to the tutors. So when you're passing down information to any person, it's much easier if they relate to you. Rather than it's like a person's like, you might be, there's no connection, right? And when that connection is missing between you and your tutor, I guess that information, like the passing of information will become harder and inefficient.
Exactly.
So you knew it, you knew who you wanted to target and you did that. Let's touch on the other aspect or angle of your life and your career. So you're dyslexic and we can, for those who don't know, like, can you tell us a bit what's dyslexia? And we'll touch a bit more on that area, but can we start with that, please?
So in my book, I term dyslexia as a learning difference as opposed to a learning difficulty. The official definition at the moment is still that it is a learning difficulty. I am on a mission to get that changed to difference.
Nice.
I think that the language that we use to talk about people with any condition is so important. We have to aim to uplift rather than make them feel bad about themselves. But it's a learning difference that predominantly affects one's ability to read, write, and spell. But it also affects other aspects of an individual's life, from the ability to process information, the speed at which you process, your memory, organization. And it's people that are dyslexic, I'm sure, will resonate with what I'm saying so much because of the challenges you face with so many things. It then affects your mental health. So you typically find a lot of dyslexic individuals like myself who struggle a lot with anxiety. And it's not just snowflake anxiety that I know older generations like to say that we're all snowflakes, because we're not. It is a genuine anxiety. Like it's left me with IBS. So you offered me lots of like lovely food before we started. And I passed on that because the truth is I've chosen to wear cream today for those of you who are listening and not watching. And my goodness, do we not want any accidents from the back end should I need to run to the bathroom. So you see, there are things that I have to think about. So it's an all encompassing, condition. I'm also mildly dyspraxic. And I found that out when I was diagnosed when I was 18, but I only read my full diagnostic report when I was 23 because my diagnosis journey at 18 was just so traumatic. Like I just decided not to read the report, which isn't smart. Please read your report or get someone to help you read it. It's a long document, 30 pages. But yes, I'm also mildly dyspraxic, which is a condition that affects one's coordination. It's not one of the most well-known in our spectrum of neurodiversity, but just like dyslexia, it affects so many other aspects of one's life. And it's quite common for dyslexic people to have dyslexia and ADHD or dyslexia and dyspraxia. Often the data is showing us that it doesn't come as a silo. It often comes with other conditions. So
nice. Thank you for sharing about this journey. And I'm sure there's a lot of challenges as you described, but what I really liked is you use these challenges and you use this difference, as you mentioned, and you turned it into an opportunity. So can you tell us a bit more about that? Because you've had the other business, so you could have just, managed these challenges and difficulties and then pushed through and worked and built and grew enriched learning.
Yeah.
How did it become that, no, I want to use this difference and I want to educate business about it, because you have a business now on educating corporate companies on how to become more neuro-inclusive.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Okay. That happened for 3 reasons. Mm-hmm. The first and honest reason is that it was an accident. Mm-hmm. I'd finished writing the book. Prior to writing the book, I posted and created a lot of content specifically on LinkedIn about my dyslexic journey.
Before even thinking about the idea of a book, or?
Before even the idea of a book, yeah. So I was very fortunately found to write this book via social media. It was from the content that I was posting on LinkedIn and Instagram, and for a short period of time on YouTube as well. And the title Dyslexia and Me comes from the title of my YouTube video, Dyslexia and Me.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah. So that's where it all came from. But the journey with starting that first business started by accident. I finished writing the book. Organizations were looking for speakers to come in to talk about dyslexia and neurodiversity. And I noticed the gap in the market. At this point, I very much knew that I am an entrepreneur. I'd had quite a few other failed ideas that I wanted to exercise, but I had a strong conviction about this one. And again, it was a conviction of justice more than of money. And I think I just want to side note say, if anyone wants to run a business, please don't just go into entrepreneurship to make money.
You'll probably fail.
You'll probably fail. Yeah. It's not enough to keep you going because it is a challenging journey. Purpose is so important. And on top of not going to this professional services firm because, I wasn't aligned with it, my business had picked up, I had also clocked very early on that I would struggle in the corporate environment because it's not neuro-inclusive. So started by accident. People said, can you come in and speak? I spotted a gap in the market. Second reason why that business started is because, again, I knew my audience straight away. It's medium. Yes. Can relate to them. I'd been on that journey of onboarding. I'd been on that journey of recruitment. Don't forget, I failed 39 times. So I knew exactly why I was failing, from not being even offered extra time for the ridiculous psychometric tests that they make you do that have absolutely nothing to do with the job you've applied for. Agreed. I'm sure you can relate. So when I actually was onboarded, the form of communication, why are you sending me an email in font size 11, no line spacing, Times New Roman?
Fair enough.
And you've used 30 lines to say what you could say in 5 lines. And I'm dyslexic and I can't actually, it's too much, right? So, that was something that I realized I could fill that gap by teaching them how to do it better. And then the third reason, and this was a personal reason, I was looking for how to rebrand myself outside of enriched learning. Because an early mistake that I made was I was enriched learning. Customers were only ever happy talking to me.
Ooh.
So I thought at the time, if I set up another business, which isn't necessarily the smartest way of solving this problem, then people will realize I'm busy and they won't always be able to get to me. Genuinely, this was the thought process. And so and also I had this strong brand around inclusivity and equity and neurodiversity.
Because you wrote about it before.
Yes.
And on LinkedIn, yes.
Online. So I thought this is perfect. This could house my personal brand. Because it is still about education. I go into these organizations. Yes, many a time it's to deliver a keynote, but most of the time it's actually to deliver learning and development sessions. Nice. I do a lot of consultations. Brands and organizations ask me to write their neuro-inclusivity guides. I do a lot of consulting on how to onboard, how to move one team to the other. So, there's a lot of that behind the scenes, right? And that's how the consulting business was born.
Nice. So you started growing this consulting business of yours. As you said, you went to firms like Google, Financial Times, and many more to tell them how to be more neuro-inclusive in terms of their onboarding material, the overall environment for an employee. But then you had enriched learning going on. So I'm sure there's a lot of, processes related to that business when it comes to marketing, managing the students, the schedule, but also now, I have a talk here, I have this there, I have this workshop. So how did you decide how to delegate? Do I need to hire someone now? Like, there's a lot of decisions that have to come.
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about that.
It's been a learning
That's
journey.
a different book, another book
it's
coming soon.
Book. Do you know what? I actually have been thinking, what would the next book be about? And that's a great topic.
Yes.
So I will happily send you a portion of my royalties once that book is
Please.
written.
Yes.
But you asked a good question about how I split my time. I have an amazing mentor that holds me accountable at the moment. He is brilliant.
Nice.
In terms of asking me, my mentor has never told me what to do, which is actually a good mentor. But he's definitely made me think about why I'm doing what I'm doing, and the question of how much time are you spending on what, and what do you want to get out of this. So here is where I stand at the moment. And of course, things chop and change and move, so it depends on life, etc. But where I stand at the moment with regards to the situation, my time split is actually 70-30. 70% of my time is spent on enriched learning because we are pivoting as a business, but also we are now serving large numbers of young people and working with other businesses. So, my dream has finally come true. We are now building that B2B side of the business, which will enable me to reach as many young people as possible. 30% of my time is spent on the consulting business and on the personal brand stuff. And actually, the personal brand business, the consulting business, that has grown the enriched learning business because it's made me more visible. And by making me more visible, it makes enrich more visible. And so you see how that helps. And I only take on work in my consulting business that has some sort of tie to enriched learning, particularly the media facing roles. So for example, I'm a contributor for Good Morning Britain, which is a very popular breakfast show. And I only really go on to talk about topics that are linked to education or diversity, equity and inclusion. So you can see how it may on appearance look like that's all to do with her consulting and the media and the personal brand, but actually it helps both. Neurodiversity is so important in education. So again, my dream has always been to provide businesses that see an individual through the entire course of their education, right through to when they start their career. So enriched learning helps you get your grades up, which is the name of our new program. It's literally called Get Your Grades Up. And once you've finished getting your grades up, particularly if you're a neurodivergent individual, the founder of enriched learning also goes to those corporate organizations you aspire to be in, and makes them more inclusive. So by the time you get here, you don't have the challenges she had when she got there. Do you see what I mean? So that's how the time is split. Don't get me wrong, it can be quite challenging. This month is busy. It's very, very busy. I am looking forward to booking a holiday at the end of this month, which will probably happen after Christmas to just refresh. But you can see how they kind of help each other. Of course. In a, do I say it in a weird way? But in a unique way. Enriched learning will always take up more time because it's a bigger business. It's just as simple as that. It has a team. I have to manage tutors. We do have a admin manager, and that has helped massively. So I'm not actually in the day-to-day running of Enrich. Fair enough. And that helps a lot.
Because you need to scale, you need to, it's tough to do the very B2B or the BAU, the business as usual stuff, while also managing all the other stuff. Exactly.
So that's how we are at this point. Enriched learning, the goal is to really get it to a point where it runs itself. Because remember, I started the second business so I could pull away my personal brand and identity from Enrich. The goal at the moment isn't to sell it on to anyone else. That's not the reason why I want it to run itself. But I want it to run itself because I do believe good business runs without the standing of its founder.
Correct.
It should be about the business, not the individual.
100%. 100%. You've had these two businesses and you were able to build like a career and an identity around things you're passionate about and problems you can relate to. And if I go to your LinkedIn and I summarize who Onyinye is in 3 words, it'd probably be like education, neuro-inclusivity, and career development or empowerment, entrepreneurship. A bit debatable. You can share on this a bit more.
Yeah.
But your brand is super clear, super concise. I can see what you're doing within, I don't know, scanning your profile for 2 minutes.
That's thanks to my mentor, because when I met him 2 years ago, he was like, what do you even do? It's not even clear. And it was very reflective of that early life crisis I was talking about. So, I think good mentorship will help you get clear on that, but continue the question.
Yes. So how did you reach there? Because I personally am building my personal brand, the podcast, but you've built a career around it. So you no longer had to work. So what tips do you have for people keen on that, whether they're currently in a corporate job or they're young in uni, they have a problem or they have something they're passionate about, how to try to build a career and not depend on a job and do that, or like any tips around that struggle, basically?
This might come across as arrogant, and I really hope it doesn't, but I just believed that I can.
Yes, that's an important one, honestly.
I really just believed that I can. And I remember my mentor at first, I think he was skeptical. Can she really? Is this just some Gen Z stuff? Is she running away from actual responsibility, going to a 9-to-5? But I actually just believe that I can and that I will. And I've always been that way. That's the first thing. Believing that you can is so important. There comes a point where you have to make a choice.
Correct.
To make anything work, you either give it 100,000% or you don't, but you can't half it. That's what I've learned. The other thing is that I looked for examples of people that have done so. Okay. And I'll give you an example. Funny that we're doing a podcast because, arguably, is he the king of podcasts? I don't know. But Stephen Bartlett is an example of someone who just decided I can and I will and has done. Prior to his podcast, did anyone think you could build an entire career out of podcasting? Probably not.
True.
Right? I'm a huge Beyonce fan. My 25th birthday was themed after the Renaissance album. That's how much of a fan I am. Yeah. So I'm a huge Beyonce fan. And yes, I'm a fan of her music, but I'm also a fan of her career journey because people think, or if you don't know lots about her, she's a singer. Yeah, she's a musician. But she's an entrepreneur in so many other different ways. I mean, she has a hair care brand that's just won loads of awards. She was a perfumer at one stage. She has a fashion brand, ID Park. There's a huge portfolio, and these were things that she was interested in and decided that I'm going to build a career out of that. And so, I mean, I've just picked two very different individuals to give people context, and intentionally picked people that look a little bit more like me because I think it's important. Because look at what I said. I looked for people who had done it. Right? So I hope to be someone that someone looks at and says that she's done it. But it was important to me to believe that I can look for people who have done it. If I think of other entrepreneurs that have really inspired me and built what I would call a portfolio career, and I will take a minute to think about this.
Yes, no worries.
Who's really done it? Because the other thing is, whilst I think about another person who has really done it, doing what you love is so important.
Yes. And
how I've been able to do it is I love talking, and I love media in the sense that I love broadcasting. I believe that while social media is huge, television has huge reach, and I don't think we use it enough to educate, in my opinion. So that's why I do things like Good Morning Britain. That's why I've done my first BBC Two documentary. I'm actually putting together a proposal for another documentary. And it may seem like this is all a little bit disjointed, but actually doing what I love is so important. And that's another reason why I've been able to pull it off. When you love it, you'll find the time. Even 100%. When you're tired, you'll find the time. You will just do it. It is as simple as that. If we look at another individual who has done this quite well, she's now based in the States, but she's from East London, Emma. Forgive me, I always lose her last name, but she is the brains behind Good American, which is one of the Kardashian sisters' denim brands. She is again the brains behind Skims, with again a huge Kardashian brand, and she's another person who built a portfolio career. She does media, she does Dragon's Den. She does a lot of work around entrepreneurship for women and people of color, people from working class backgrounds. And she's managing and running multiple different businesses. And the reason why it was important to me to just like in the background think of examples, I hope people can see that like in the humblest way possible, I'm well researched in the sense that before I made the decision to do what I've done, I looked to see if it's been done before.
That's important,
yeah. It doesn't mean that I don't think that you can't be the first to do things, but my favorite saying is, let's be guided.
Yeah.
Let's be incredibly guided, because we're talking about your life, like your career, we're talking about your life.
True.
Don't make ill-informed decisions.
Just go and start a podcast, or you need to just... Which I've done. I'm trying to.
Yeah, but it's not. You've not. It's informed. It's been 100%.
I've been through a journey. And yes, I get you. Which is how you succeed as well. You've been and you relate to these problems, and that's where there's a gap here, and I'm going to target that gap, whether it's enriched learning, affordable learning, or your inclusion. That these companies have no clue how to make their processes or the overall environment more inclusive. So you're really related to these two things. And I think that's the key lesson from believing and also relating to the problem you're trying to solve and being passionate about it. Yeah. Very quickly, how do you deal with self-doubt when it kicks in? Like, do you just talk to yourself back and say like, no, we're going to do it. I know the gap. Like,
I do talk to myself a lot. I pray a lot. I pray a lot, meditate a lot.
Nice.
But, I read a lot. Let's come back to what I just said. I've researched, I've looked at individuals, I've followed their journey. This is so important. I think in the age of, I call it TikTok brain, people don't want to read anymore.
True.
Right? They think reading is boring. And again, credit to my mentor. When I ask for any help and support, it is often followed with a link to an article or the title of a book. Or the name of an individual that I should look up to like learn more about their journey and see where there's any similarities, anything I can pick up from that. It is so important to learn from others.
Yeah.
And if reading isn't your thing, because trust me, I'm dyslexic, so, reading wasn't my thing for a long time, then have conversations.
Correct.
Go out there and meet people who have done what you've done or who have done what you're trying to do, just to hear their journey. I think the most important thing is having an open mind and being willing to be a student for life.
100%. Thank you for sharing. One last very quick question.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to build their online brand.
Yeah.
Whether it's in a professional context or more of a personal Instagram, TikTok page context.
Yeah.
I would say let's focus on like your experience.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for people who want to start? Like, should they focus, as you said, on a problem they solve? Like, what tips do you have for them? Okay. What's key for you to have a strong online presence that is, where I said, like, I go to your profile, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
How to reach that point and how to grow your audience.
Okay. The first thing I would say is be very clear on what it is that you're doing. Like you've said, I do neurodiversity and education. It's crystal clear. I don't change it. There are times when those either of those topics or both of those topics are hugely popular, people are interested, therefore I may have more views or a wider reach. And there are times when no one really cares about that stuff. But guess what? I don't follow the trend. I continue to create thought leadership around those two things. I would say because everyone says, but it's difficult to have a niche. If I'm to have breadth, then I would say, okay, it's education, which is massively broad, and equity, diversity, and inclusion. EDI, DEI, whatever people, inclusion, right? Yeah. So that's the first thing. The second thing is know your platform. I was 18, 19 when I started posting on LinkedIn.
Wow.
Again, very, very young to be posting on that platform. That is not how that platform was being used.
Yeah.
Again, 8 years ago?
I'm 24 and I still question what should I post? What should I...
Yeah.
So that's a brave move as well.
Very brave move. But remember I said earlier in this podcast that, when I was young and a teenager and at school, I was dubbed the try-hard and the neek, or the geek or whatever. Because I decided I'm just going to own that because that is who I am. I think people think I'm cool now. I hope. But even if you don't, I don't really care.
I think you are.
But because I had owned that I'm not traditionally cool, I was very comfortable with posting on a platform that wasn't traditionally cool. I am from the era where Instagram was the it platform, was where to grow. But the stuff I talk about is not for Instagram. It's not. My content is short form text. But even when I say short form text, I'm talking about 350, 400 words.
Okay.
No one's reading that on an Instagram caption, but they're definitely reading that on a LinkedIn post.
Yeah.
I use a lot of imagery. Yes, imagery is what Instagram is all about, but the type of imagery I'm using is not what is hyped on Instagram. Do you get what I mean? It's not, I'm not in...
here's a day in, and I don't know, the diet and the fitness, it's a niche.
It's a niche. And dare I say it, as a woman, I'm not doing the bikini shots. And there's nothing wrong with that before someone takes the wrong idea for what I've tried to say. But at the time when I had started out, that was what was doing very well on Instagram. Yeah. That was the trend, right? And my work wasn't aligned with that. So know your platform and stick to it.
100%.
And then the third thing is consistency.
Yeah.
You've got to be consistent. I mean, I say that I should slap myself on the wrist. I've not been all that consistent with LinkedIn because of this new project that we're doing with Haringey Youth Services at the moment. It's just been a lot of work. But I have been consistent in what I am posting about.
Yes.
Because I think sometimes people think, right, someone said be consistent. I have to post 5 times a week.
And it's different topics.
And it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. I didn't post, no word of a lie, I didn't post for 3 weeks. And an incident occurred where a very racist comment was made about an all-black female panel on Loose Women, which is a popular morning TV show. And I did a thought leadership piece on it and why, such level of prejudice is not only unacceptable, but it's harmful and it puts these individuals at risk. I didn't post for 3 weeks on LinkedIn, but I felt very strongly about this type of inclusion as a young black woman who often ends up on these types of panels. That post had over 500,000 impressions in a day.
Wow.
Because my audience know what they're going to get from me, the fact that I didn't post for 3 weeks really did not matter. The sentiment behind what I was saying, and most importantly, the way I said it, it was very well considered. I actually started writing the post the night before I actually posted it. So I really thought about what I wanted to say. Yeah. In summary, quality over quantity. Quality over quantity. If you want other simple tips, the way you show up online is important. Even down to content creation. This might sound superficial or I don't know, some people might not like what I'm about to say, but it's just my thought of practice. I thought very carefully about the outfit I was going to wear for this podcast. I actually watched all your other podcasts to see what is the vibe, what is the energy. If I'd come in a suit, it would not have been that's not what this is about. This is meant to be a warm and like just all-encompassing conversation. It's meant to feel like a big career hug. Yeah. That's the vibe that I got.
Wow, I like that this is exactly what it is now, yes.
Right?
100%.
So, like, do your research. Yeah. Show up as your best self. Look the part. It's important. Get good headshots. When an organization asks you, can we have a headshot of you to promote something that you're doing? And you send a photo of you on the beach, this does not look professional.
100%.
And people don't like when I say this, but it is true.
It does matter for sure. Because it's the first thing people will see, right? Your image. Like, your brand is simply the first image I see you, so...
And I have invested a lot in professional photography.
I've seen that. Yeah. And it makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference. Especially for business number 2, where I'm working with organizations that I'm very fortunate are willing to pay me very, very well.
True.
Therefore, I have to show up.
Yeah, I have to,
On first appearance, they need to see that this person looks like they match what they say they can do. And so that would be my advice to people. I would definitely say get into using video. Video content is very important now. I get a lot of DMs about, I want to be a speaker, I want to be paid to speak. But when I go on your profile, I've not seen a good video of you talking.
Fair enough. You need to show what you're doing.
Show what you're doing. Don't feel like you need to film every aspect of your life, but a good quality photo of you speaking is very important. Use your Instagram stories. So I use my Instagram stories a lot. And whilst I think if I ever get to the point, I would love to get to the point where I have like a permanent media team to help me with like the editing and stuff. Whilst I'm not able to upload the YouTube, what I do in a day video, that is the goal. YouTube is coming back. I would love to. At the moment, I do it through my Instagram stories. Yeah. People can see what it's like to run 2 different businesses and still be...
And it has a personal aspect. I've seen some yesterday.
Yeah.
And the challenges, everything. You share everything, which is... It shows that, yes, I'm here.
I'm human, right?
But I'm still you can relate to me. I pushed through. It's not just like one day I became...
No.
I have 2 businesses, etc. This is what it takes, and still takes some effort, some energy.
And I work from home most days these days. And, a really important thing to me, again, as a female entrepreneur, the issues that we have to contend with women's health and how you navigate that. I had a migraine all day yesterday. And it wasn't just a migraine because of... I had a migraine. It was a migraine that's linked to like a hormone issue. And I know a lot of women face this challenge. And so for people to be able to see that, it just humanizes you. Because the other thing I will say, and I'm so fortunate, I've not experienced any trolling or like negativity online. And I genuinely think it's because I show that I'm fallible. Don't think that you need to be perfect on social media. Really don't. Show people, apologize if you say something that's out of line.
True.
Hopefully you thought before you spoke, so you wouldn't have to. But, if you say something that has offended people or you've alienated a community, apologize. That stuff does really matter. Humility really does matter.
100%.
But I could talk all about
this is
personal branding.
Super insightful, at least I feel a bit selfish because this is really beneficial. I hope it also is beneficial. I am sure it is beneficial for anyone out there because a lot of people are, especially in the corporate environment and even outside, your personal brand has more importance slowly. Your online presence has more and more importance. So thank you very much for all these tips and for your time. I really, really appreciate it.
Me.
Of course. If you want to conclude with general advice for young people, whether they want to go into the corporate path or not, briefly, what would it be? Whether it's few words or...
my advice to any individual really comes down to, and it might contradict something that I said earlier. Earlier, I said it's important for you to do what you love. And please do what you love. But also remember that in doing what you love, there will be times that you have to do things you absolutely hate to get to the next chapter. I detested admin. I can't stand emails. I cannot tell you the other way we can communicate, but I don't like emails. don't really like having to do things like employee payroll. But you know what? I've been running the business since I was 12. I would say I've had to have payroll for my tutor since I was 19. I'm now 26, so it's been 7 years. I only stopped doing those aspects of things 2 years ago. 2 years ago was when I could afford to pay someone full-time, Monday to Friday, managing all of that side of my life. So for a significant period of time, I did things I absolutely detest while still doing what I love at the core.
Because that's what keeps you...
That's what kept me going. But I do think we are in an age of, if you don't like it and you're not passionate about it, just quit. Please don't. Please do not just quit. And embrace the learnings, because guess what? Me doing it for that long, even though I trust my staff, they are my right arm, and I know that they would never fudge the numbers or anything like that. The fact that I did it for so long means that I understand what it is that is being done. And that is a big part of any form of career, whether it be corporate, traditional, or entrepreneurship. Yeah, it's so important. Doing what you dislike gives you important skills and gives you resilience, gives you grit. So that would be my advice. Do what you love, but remember that there will be parts of it that you really don't like, and that's okay. It's part of the journey.
100%. Thank you very much, Onyinye. I really appreciate it. Very insightful conversation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.